Do you hate hiring and firing? Is that just one of the things about small business that you really find hard to do? Well, we're going to be talking about doing the hard things today on Small Business Daily. I'm Randy Kirk. You've found Small Business Daily, and if you like talking about hard things, no, you probably don't. So don't push the dislike button. But if you know you need to, push the like button. And then if you like this general idea of learning about various aspects of small business, then you might want to subscribe and you might want to be notified of upcoming things we'll be talking about in future episodes. But today, we're going to continue on from yesterday, where we started talking about the hard things. I'm going to make a claim right now to you that most small businesses in America are stopped at around $70,000 a year. I know this is a fact. That's all they can make. They've hit 70,000 or 65 or 75,000. They've hit that number. That's what they're taking home to their family, and they can't get past it. They can't, for some reason, they're stuck. And the main reason that they're commonly stuck, the number one reason I see through my consulting and through my years of watching small businesses and writing about small businesses, the number one reason that they're stuck is because of the owner, because the owner is stuck. And the owner is usually stuck because that owner is not willing to do some hard thing. So yesterday, if you want to go back and look, we talked about selling. We talked about communicating with humans. We talked about delegating, responsibility and authority, and we talked about marketing. Those were 5 of the hard things we talked about yesterday. I encourage you to go back and listen to that video. We also had a giveaway at the end of the program, and we will have that same giveaway today. So when we get all done here, I'll make you an offer that you could hardly refuse because it's free. Anyway, so we want to talk about more hard things today. We want to talk about more things that you may find difficult to do, and therefore you aren't doing them or you aren't doing them well. So another one from yesterday, we talked about marketing, which is the broad idea of every aspect of how you present your products in your company and your storefront and your location and your pricing and your costing. And I mean, all of that's marketing. But one piece of that marketing is advertising. And advertising used to be relatively simple. When I started out almost 1,000 years ago in small business, advertising was somewhat simpler. You had the yellow pages. If you were retail and even if you were wholesaler manufacturing, you counted a lot on the yellow pages. If you were in manufacturing, you might have counted a lot on trade shows and things of that nature. There was mailing. That was a very big piece of what we all did in those days. And then there might have been advertising in trade magazines if you were in manufacturing or wholesale, and there might have been print advertising in newspapers and local magazines if you were in retail. Those were the main things. Okay, yeah, you could do radio and TV and bus bench ads and some other things, but the main things were what I just described. Well, today, some of those things are still true, and you've added an entire new layer of the internet. And while the internet was a promise to make things more democratic in terms of small business being able to advertise at the same level as big business, and that has been true, in some ways it's just made it dramatically more complicated to do advertising. It was complicated when you wanted to take out your yellow page ad. Did you take an eighth of a page or a quarter page or a half a page or a full page? What did that ad look like? What did you do in the ad in order to encourage people to come in? I mean, that was complicated. If you wanted to advertise in the newspaper, how big an ad? How frequent did you run it? What page did it run on? How did you negotiate getting it on the page that you wanted it to be on? How much was it going to cost you? What was your return going to be? What was your cost of customer acquisition? I mean, that's a lot of stuff to learn. And that's what's just on the 2 things, yellow pages and print advertising. Well, today we have Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And then we have your website and we have blogs and we have other kinds of advertising, pay-per-click advertising on Google. You have Google My Business, you have Yelp, you have, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And then you have email blasting, which has kind of taken the place of most of your advertising, of your regular mail advertising, but not all of it. There's still plenty of junk mail in my mailbox every day. I don't know about you. So it's gotten a lot more complicated. And what I find is that many small business owners, they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. And so their advertising tends to be who walked in the front door, or who picked up the phone and called, or who friend told them they should do this kind of advertising. That becomes their knowledge base for how they're deciding about advertising. So someone walked in from the local radio station and convinced you to buy a bunch of ads on the radio. Or somebody walked in from some kind of a local the gas station down the street that's running little videos while people are pumping their gas. I mean, that's how people are making their advertising decisions today. If that's you, stop it. Don't do that. You need to spend some time. Take a few hours or a few days of hours, maybe even a week of hours to study advertising, to study some aspect of advertising. Most of us today feel we need to be in social media marketing. Well, you can't be in all of it. It's too complicated. There are too many of them. You don't have enough money to spend. You don't have enough time to write it all. So pick one. Is Facebook best for you? You're consumer oriented, or Instagram? Maybe you have a fan base, so Instagram's great. Maybe you're B2B, so you should be looking at LinkedIn. Maybe any one of those. You should be on YouTube, and you decide, no, I'm going to put my energy and my efforts into video. I highly recommend that, by the way, for almost everybody today, is that you be making a YouTube or a video effort, because video doesn't just go on YouTube, it goes on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and everything else. So make a decision about one of those, study that one in detail, take some courses, spend some money, read some books, really become knowledgeable about that area. I'm in marketing. That's what I do for a living. I'm a marketing consultant. And I recently decided I needed to become an expert at Facebook marketing and Facebook advertising. Well, so far I've spent $5,000 on courses, and I've probably spent about 60 hours just studying Facebook advertising. And I've brought 2 team members to many of those same meetings and those same classes that I've been taking, so that my team members would also be educated. That's the kind of effort that it takes to become an expert in one of these areas. Now, you can hire an outside expert like me, but if you want to become an expert yourself, so that you know how to do it and you know whether the experts kind of doing the right thing or not, it takes some time, it takes some money, it takes some investment in order to make those kind of decisions. So I understand why you might consider advertising to be a hard thing. But because it's a hard thing, it doesn't mean that you can ignore it. Or, yes, you can ignore it, but your company is going to be stuck within a certain range of income unless you understand how to advertise to get people in the door. Okay, let's talk about another hard thing. And this is not right at the top of my list of hard things. This would be customer service. I'm going to guess that you think you're pretty good at customer service. I'm going to think that maybe you think your employees are pretty good at customer service. But in today's business environment, you can't afford to be pretty good. And you certainly can't afford to be so-so or not good at customer service. This world today expects outstanding customer service. And there have been some studies done that show that your profit is directly related to the level of customer service that you give. Directly related. Equal. If your customer service is this, your profit is this. If your customer service is this, your profit is that. Absolutely related. So how is your customer service really? Well, you're maybe like this, maybe you don't. Go look at your Google My Business reviews and go look at your Yelp reviews. Go look at any other reviews that are out there about your company and trust them. If you're at a 5.0, your customer service is probably outstanding, and this is not a hard thing for you. If you're at a 4.0, your customer service is probably okay, and this hard thing is for you. If you're showing 3 stars out of 5, your customer service ain't that great. And if you're under 3 stars, your customer service is horrible. And I'm saying trust those numbers. Yeah, you could have some secret buyers, come into your store and report back to you about your customer service. You could maybe just stand back and kind of take a really neutral view, watching your people on the phones or watching them operate in the store, and maybe make your own judgment about your customer service. Or you could potentially just think in terms of where are the complaints and what are people saying to you about your customer service. Maybe you could ask your own employees what they think about your customer service. But the truth is, any one of those things, whatever method you want to use, but Yelp and Google My Business is a great place to start. How do you improve your customer service? You read about it, you study it, you acknowledge where the problems are, you contemplate what it's going to take in order to be friendlier, in order to be nicer, in order to deal with complaints, in order to be really in the business of solving people's problems and making them believe you care. I have a book called When Friday Isn't Payday. We talk about some of that. You can pick up that book it doesn't hardly cost anything on Kindle. So you need to read. You need to dig into how do you improve your customer service. Watch videos on it online. What can you do to improve your customer service? The third thing I want to talk to you about today in terms of hard things that's probably getting in the way of your company's success is becoming a better buyer. Now, I've done a video on this. You can look back at the video that I've done and in that video on pricing, I talked about how to be a better buyer. But it's a hard thing. Negotiating is a hard thing. Are you a good negotiator? Maybe we could make that a separate category, make it 2. One is how to be a better buyer, and the other is how to be a better negotiator. But when you're buying, you're buying something. Even in services, you're buying some kinds of other additional services that you're paying for that are determining your cost of sale or your cost of overhead. But if you're in any kind of a product business, then you're buying tons of products, or you're buying raw materials, you're buying machinery, you're buying labor to come in and fix the machinery. You have all these things that you're buying. Well, a 5% difference in your cost, if you're spending $100,000 a year on raw materials, is $5,000 a year in your pocket. And by the way, 5%, in my opinion, would be a very small benefit that you're likely to gain if you went in and became an outstanding buyer. Now, maybe you don't need to be the outstanding buyer. Maybe you're a little larger company and you have somebody in the position of buyer, or possibly you have several people buying. You might have an office manager who's in the position of buying some things. You might have a person who's buying your products or your raw materials. That's their job. You might have a shipping clerk who's buying your shipping if you're doing outgoing shipping. You might be buying internet services and advertising. That's all things that are negotiable. Everything is negotiable. Assume it's negotiable. Don't ever assume that the price on the price list is the price. But you're saying, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to beat up my suppliers. It's hard for me to twist and try to get the last nickel out of them. I'm not even asking you to do that. In fact, I encourage you to treat your suppliers with a tremendous amount more respect than you probably do. Your suppliers are more important than your customers. There's lots of customers, but there's a limited number of suppliers for each thing that you need for your business. So I would encourage you to have a suppliers day and invite your suppliers in and give them a party. I would encourage you to make sure that your supplier knows that you want them to be taken care of by everybody in your company and treated with respect. But that doesn't mean that you should leave money on the table. That doesn't mean that your favorite salesman from that supplying company is giving you the best price. Believe me, they're not. Okay, so how do you negotiate? Pick up books on negotiating. Pick up books on buying. Find articles on YouTube or elsewhere on the internet on buying and on negotiating. It could make a huge difference in your business, because it's one thing to save that $5,000 a year, on $100,000 in purchases. It's another thing to have a $5,000 advantage in your purchasing over your competition, or to not have that advantage. They might be getting the 5,000 in better pricing and you're not, which gives them way more flexibility in their pricing and gives them a competitive advantage. So that's another hard thing, learning to be a great buyer, learning to be a great negotiator. So I'm going to give you that free offer now. I want you to push the like button if you liked what we talked about today, and the subscribe and the notify button. I'm going to give you the free offer. I have written part of a book. I'm going to send you a part of a book as my free offer. It has 29 hard things and some recommendations about what to do about them. I haven't finished the book, so I haven't published the book. You're getting it in the galleys, and you might find some punctuation errors. But that's the deal. Before anybody else gets this book, you're going to get a list of 29 hard things so that you can go through those 29 hard things and identify the ones that apply to you. You might want to give them to your employees too. Go down this list of hard things. Are any of these applying to you that need to be dealt with? So 29 hard things. I'll send it out to you. All you need to do is contact me. My email is right below, randykirk77@gmail. Send me a quick email, and I will send the PDF right back to you so that you can start discovering what those 29 things are for you. I think I'm going to spend one more day on this. So tomorrow we'll spend one more day on hard things. And this is Randy Kirk with Small Business Daily. See you then.